Commander Masters officially releases August 4th, with pre-release events happening July 28th. And in preparation of that, I'm going to go over every Commander Masters Commander deck new card coming out for this set. We have a total of 40 new cards in Commander Masters, and all of them are found in the Commander decks, with 10 in each Commander deck. I'm going to quickly run through every card just so you know what to look out for as the set releases. Starting out, we will show off every new commander for this set. The first 4 face commanders are Zoldyck Voidgorger, Onyxia Hand of Erebos, Commander Guff, and Sliver Gravemother. Zoldyck Voidgorger is a 6-mana legendary creature Eldrazi. With the colorless spells you cast from your hand with mana value 7 or greater have Cascade, and it is a 7/4. This is such a great card because all of those big Eldrazi you're casting are going to help you get even more stuff onto your battlefield. This is such a cool card, and I know it's going to be super powerful in a lot of decks, so it is quite pricey right now. Next up is Onyxia Hand of Erebos, which is 2 white, black, green legendary enchantment creature demigod with menace, and other enchantment creatures you control have menace. Whenever Onyxia enters the battlefield or attacks, exile up to 1 target non-or enchantment card from your graveyard. Create a token that's a copy of that card, except it's a 3/3 black zombie creature token in addition to its other types. There's a lot of really great cards in this deck that basically you can sacrifice and then get back and turn into creatures. Whether your opponents remove them or you sack them to gain some other value, you're going to be able to get them back as these 3/3 black zombie creature tokens, which is super great, meaning you're going to be able to get double the value out of these. This is a kind of way Abzan has never went before, with being able to get stuff back from the graveyard that are enchantments. So this is a really cool effect, and I think it's going to be really popular. Commander Guff is a 1 blue, red, white legendary planeswalker Guff. At the beginning of your end step, put a loyalty counter on another target planeswalker you control. He starts with 5. +1, create a 1/1 red wizard creature token with tap, add a red. Spend this mana only to cast a planeswalker spell. -3, you draw X cards, and Commodore Guff deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of planeswalkers you control. Commodore Guff can be your commander. Commodore Guff is a really awesome commander, and I'm really excited to see what players are able to do with him. He has these 2 unique abilities that basically buff these planeswalker-centric decks, so I can't wait to see what players add to these decks to make them even stronger. But the lineup of planeswalkers that they included are already super great. And lastly, we have Sliver Gravemother. White, blue, black, red, green. Legendary creature Sliver. The legend rule doesn't apply to slivers you control. Each Sliver creature card in your graveyard has Encore X, where X is its mana value. And this card has Encore equal to 5. One of the things I love most about Sliver Gravemother is that the legend rule doesn't apply. Basically meaning, if this card gets removed or is killed in combat, you can Encore 5, and those Encore copies won't die because the legendary rule doesn't apply. Meaning, you can get it back, swing at all your opponents with a Sliver Gravemother, and then exile it and put it back in the command zone, giving you double the value rather than having to cast it for your command zone over and over again. In addition to that, we can get those legendary slivers that give us incredible value back onto the battlefield to swing out at least once before they get exiled. This is such a cool commander, and its value is super high right now, so I hope to see a lot of really cool decks with this in it. Now we're going to look at those co-commanders and take a look at what makes these good viable options for your deck. Starting off with the colorless Eldrazi, we have Amathus Ghostfire Initiative, XX legendary creature Spirit Naga. Amarthus Ghostfire Initiative enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. Whenever you put 1 or more +1/+1 counters on another colorless creature, you may put a +1/+1 counter on Omnith. When Omnith dies, manifest a number of cards from the top of your library equal to the number of counters on it. This is a super unique card because we've never seen it before. This ability is super cool whether you're doing a lot of modular stuff, which is putting a lot of counters on colorless artifacts, which will then buff Amathus, or just creating a ton of manifest creatures, because if you can get this up to 10, you manifest the top 10 cards of your library. Hopefully some of those are powerful Eldrazi you can flip and just deal massive damage with. Looking at our Abzan deck, we have Narcy Fablesinger, 1 white, black, green. Legendary creature human bard. With lifelink, whenever you sack an enchantment, draw a card. Whenever the final enchantment of an ability of a saga you control resolves, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is that saga's mana value. Most notably, whenever a saga finishes, it sacrifices itself, meaning you get that second ability trigger and the first ability trigger whenever a saga ends, which is super great because it's a draw engine, basically getting you more draws, hopefully getting you into more sagas and land drops to be able to play more and more every turn. In addition, we've never seen a card like this in Abzan either, so this is a super cool card that I'm incredibly excited about being able to play. Going back to our Planeswalker deck, we have Leor, Spark Touch Hunter, blue, red, white. Legendary creature, Elemental, Cat. Flying and Vigilance. When Leonor, Spark Touch Hunter deals combat damage to a player, choose a Planeswalker type. Until end of turn, whenever you activate an ability of a Planeswalker you control, copy that ability. You can choose a new target for the copies. This is such a cool ability, and you have such a diverse amount of Planeswalkers to choose from. If you want to play Chandras, there's a ton of those, so being able to double up those abilities is huge. If you don't play Jaces, well, you're in luck. There's a ton of those as well, and there's a lot of great value you can get off of those. This is such a cool card, and it really lets you explore what you can do. Maybe there's a, super good alt that you want to be able to get a double of. Well, that's your choice. Go ahead and get it. And lastly, we have Ruka Rumel, Biologist. White, blue, black, red, green. Legendary creature, human wizard. As Ruka Rumel, Biologist enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Slivers you control and non-token creatures you control are of the chosen type in addition to their other creature types. The same is true for creature spells you control and creature cards you own that aren't on the battlefield. This is awesome because you want to pick Sliver, meaning all your creatures are now slivers, which also means anything that's not already a sliver gets all of the buffs from slivers. If there's a really cool ability off a card you like, or maybe you're playing a bunch of creatures with trample or something like that to basically give you good evasion, well, this is a awesome card. I can see this being built in a ton of different ways using those super powerful slivers in, not just all slivers, but unique ones that you want to take advantage of for your specific abilities, and this is so great. And in addition, pay 3 mana, create a 1/1 colorless sliver creature token. Seems pretty good to me. Now let's start going through all of these creatures, and we're going to go through them in the number order, or basically colorless through Wooburg. So starting off, we have Abstruse Archaic. Creature Avatar. Vigilance. 1 tap, copy target activated ability or triggered ability you control from a colorless source. You may choose a new target for the copy. Calamity of the Titans. 6 mana sorcery. As an additional cost, cast a spell, reveal a colorless creature card from your hand. Exile creature cards and planeswalkers with mana value less than the revealed card's mana value. This is really cool. Basically, essentially board wipe, leaving your best creature on the board and all of your opponents with nothing else. Desecrate Reality. 7 mana instant. For each opponent, exile up to 1 target permanent that player controls with an even mana value. 0 is even. Adamant. If at least 3 colorless mana was spent to cast this spell, which it will be in this deck, return a permanent card with an odd mana value from your graveyard to the battlefield. It's important to mention that the big Eldrazi are all odd mana value, so this is super great. Next up, we have Flare of Loyalties. 8 Waste. Creature Eldrazi. When you cast a spell, gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature. Until end of turn, it has base power and toughness 10/10 and gains Trample and Annihilator 2 and Haste. And this has Annihilator 2 and Trample as well, meaning you're going to swing into your opponents with at least a 10/10 Trample, Annihilator 2, Haste creature. And this is especially good if your opponent is playing a creature that has a lot of counters on it, because it's going to be even bigger and harder to battle. This is such a cool card, and this is a great one that I would love to cascade right into. Rise of the Eldrazi. 12 mana sorcery. This spell can't be countered. Destroy target permanent. Take target player draws 4 cards. Take an extra turn after this one. Exile Rise of the Eldrazi. Notably, this takes the original 3 abilities from Emrakul, Kozilek, and Ulamog and puts them on a single card, and you get an extra turn to basically do even more stuff. This is super great. Skittering Cicada. 3 mana creature insect. Flash. You may cast colorless spells as though they had flash. Whenever you cast a colorless spell, until end of turn, Skittering Cicada gains trample and gets +X/+X, where X is that spell's mana value. I love this card, not only because it's an insect, but that you can basically turn it into a huge creature right out of nowhere and deal a ton of damage, because all of your stuff has flash now. This is super great because your opponent's not going to realize, oh yeah, I'll let this 2/2 hit me, and then cast a huge spell like Rise of the Eldrazi and deal a ton of damage. Ugin's Mastery. 4 mana enchantment. Whenever you cast a colorless creature spell, manifest the top card of your library. Whenever you attack with a creature with total power 6 or greater, you may turn a face down creature you control face up. This is super great because we're going to be able to basically get a ton of things onto the battlefield. And when we attack with those giant Eldrazi, we're going to get something huge flipped for free, and it's going to be able to deal massive damage. So this is a scary card that people aren't going to realize until you flip that Eldrazi and get a ton of value from it. Battle at the Hell Vault. 4 white. Step 1 and 2. For each player, exile up to one target non-saga, non-land permanent that player controls until Battle of Hell Vault leaves the battlefield. Number 3, create Avacyn, a legendary 8/8 white angel creature token with flying, vigilance, and indestructible. Avacyn, Angel of Hope, is my favorite creature in all of Magic the Gathering. And to be able to create basically another Avacyn, Angel of Hope is unbelievable. I will be playing this card in every deck I possibly can. I love it, and I can't wait to get a ton of copies of this to put in every deck. Boon of the Spirit Realm. 3 white enchantment. Constellation. Whenever Boon of the Spirit Realm or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, put a blessing counter on Boon of the Spirit Realm. Creatures you control get +1/+1 for each blessing counter on Boon of the Spirit Realm. If you want to buff up a huge board, well, guess what? This is super simple, because playing enchantments is exactly what Enchantress wants to do. Being able to put 3, 4, 5 enchantments on the battlefield later in the game is easy, buffing your entire team for more and more every turn. This is a super scary card, especially if a big board and you can give them all trample. This is honestly the easiest way to win. Gatewatch Beacon. 2 white artifact. Gatewatch Beacon enters the battlefield with 3 loyalty counters on it. You can tap it to add a white. Whenever a planeswalker enters the battlefield under control, if the Gatewatch Beacon has loyalty counters on it, you may move a loyalty counter from Gatewatch Beacon onto that planeswalker. This is a great way to basically buff up those planeswalkers right away as soon as they enter the battlefield and get them closer to alting. Some planeswalkers, this could really matter because one uptick plus Gatewatch Beacon turns this into an instant alt that's going to give you a ton of value. Anak Oathkeeper. 1 and a white. Creature, Orc Spirit. Creatures can't attack planeswalkers you control unless the controller pays 1 for each of those creatures they control that's attacking a planeswalker you control. 4 white. Exile Anak Oathkeeper. From your graveyard, return target planeswalker card from your graveyard to the battlefield. As well as a decent blocker, this is a great card because it prevents your opponents from just swinging in whenever they want. They have to consciously keep up mana unless they want to attack you. Ondu Spirit Dancer. 4 and a white. Creature, Core Cleric. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, you may create a token that's a copy of it. Do this only once each turn. This is a super great card because some enchantments you want double of, and this one gives it to you for free. 4 mana for a 3/3 doesn't seem that great, but this ability makes it well worth its cost. Regal Sliver. 3 and a white. Creature, Sliver. Sliver creatures you control have, when this creature enters the battlefield, slivers you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. If you're the Monarch, otherwise you become the Monarch. This is such a cool way to buff your entire Sliver board super easily. And if you aren't the Monarch, this is a repetitive way to get you the Monarchy. Make sure you can draw an extra card at the end of every end step. Next up, we have Teo, Geometric Tactician. 2 and a white. Legendary Planeswalker Teo. When Teo, Geometric Tactician, enters battlefield, create a 0/4 white wall creature token with Defender and Flying. +1. You and target opponent each draw a card. -2. Choose left or right. Until your next turn, each player may attack only the nearest opponent in the last chosen direction and planeswalkers they controlled by that opponent. This is such a cool ability because if you make friends with someone at the table, you can basically say, hey, you can only attack players at a certain direction, protecting your entire board, keeping your planeswalkers buffed and ready to pop off on your next turn. Spark Shaper Visionary. 2 and a blue. Creature, Human Wizard. At the beginning of combat on your turn, choose any number of target planeswalkers you control. Until end of turn, they become 3/3 blue bird creature tokens with flying, hexproof, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, scry 1. This is such a cool way to turn your large board of planeswalkers into an instant threat. Giving them evasion and turning them into 3/3s can deal massive damage. If you have 5 on there, that's an easy 15 damage, allowing you to scry 5 times. Taunting Sliver. 3 and a blue. Creature, Sliver. Sliver creatures you control have, when this creature enters the battlefield, go target creature an opponent controls. Your Sliver board is going to be huge because you're going to be buffing them a ton. And basically making your opponents have to swing into your other opponents is super great for you. It leaves them defenseless for you to swing in and hit them on your next turn. Titan of Littjara. 4 blue creature illusion. As Titan of Littjara enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Titan of Littjara is a chosen creature in addition to its other types. When Titan of Littjara enters the battlefield or attacks, you may draw a card for each other creature you control that shares a creature type with it. If you do, discard a card. This is such a cool way to basically get exactly what you want in your hand in any tribal deck. This works especially good in slivers because all of your slivers can potentially be unblockable, meaning you're going to get to filter through whatever you you need every turn. Vranos, Masked Inquisitor. Legendary Planeswalker Vranos. Starts with 5 loyalty for 5 mana. +1, up to 2 other target planeswalkers you control phase out at the beginning of the next end step. -2, for each opponent, return up to 1 target non-land permanent from the player controls to its owner's hand. -7, target artifact you control becomes a 9/9 construct artifact creature and gains vigilance indestructible, and this creature can't be blocked. Vranos supplies a ton of really great value, especially in a planeswalker deck, so I'm super excited to see this card, and I know it's going to be worth a lot of money. Cacophony Unleashed. 5 black enchantment. When Cacophony Unleashed enters the battlefield, if you cast it, destroy all non-enchantment creatures. Super great if you're only playing enchantment creatures, right? Whenever Cacophony Unleashed or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, until end of turn, Cacophony Unleashed becomes a legendary 6/6 Nightmare God creature with menace and death touch. It's still an enchantment. This is such a cool way to get extra value out of this enchantment by just playing another enchantment spell. Nobody's going to want to block this menace death touch creature, so it's so cool, and you're going to be able to swing in for a ton of damage. Demon of Fate's Design. 4 black enchantment creature demon, flying trample. Once during each of your turns, you may cast an enchantment spell by paying life equal to its mana value rather than paying its mana cost. 2 and a black, sack another enchantment. Demon of Fate's Design gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is the sacrifice enchantment's mana value. This is one of those great cards that's going to take advantage of our new abilities from our 2 new Abzan commanders. We want to sack those cards and get a ton of value from them, and then we can bring them back with a Nixthia and gain even more value. Ghoulish Impetus. 2 and a black. Enchantment aura, enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has death touch and is goaded. When enchanted creature dies, return Ghoulish Impetus to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step. We would love to put this on our opponent's creatures because it's going to either force our opponents to block or lose a great creature. And in addition to this, it's going to come back every time it dies, so that's even better for us. Lazotep Sliver. 3 and a black. Creature zombie sliver. Sliver creatures you control have Afflict 2. Whenever a creature with Afflict 2 becomes blocked, defending player loses 2 life. Whenever a non-token sliver you control dies, amass 2 slivers. This is such a cool ability because it's going to deal damage whether or not we hit. Meaning that basically in a one-on-one match, if we give everything Afflict 2 and we swing in, we can 100% kill our opponent whether or not they block our creatures. In addition to that, if one of our slivers does die, this amass makes a giant sliver that our opponents are going to have to deal with at one point or another. Giving it flying or whatever is just going to make it even harder to evade. Capricious Sliver is next, and it's 3 and a red. Creature Sliver. Sliver creatures you control have whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of your library, you may play the card this turn. We love this impulsive card draw, and this is such great because we're going to be able to get a lot of things basically onto the battlefield that we couldn't have because we couldn't draw them, and this is just going to be a great card to help us get a lot of things out there. Chandra, Legacy of Fire. 4 and a red. Legendary Planeswalker Chandra. At the beginning of your end step, Chandra, Legacy of Fire deals X damage to each opponent where X is the number of planeswalkers you control. +1, add a red for each planeswalker you control. And 0, remove a loyalty counter from each of any number of planeswalkers you control. Exile that many cards from the top of your library, you may play them this turn. This card adds so much value, and it's so incredibly powerful. We basically have a way to gain a ton of mana, deal a ton of damage, and get a ton of cards onto our board temporarily that we can play. Chandra's Legacy of Fire is going to be a staple in Commander Planeswalker decks for sure. Descendant's Fury. 3 and a red enchantment. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you may sack one of them. If you do, reveal cards from the top of your library and 2 reveal a creature that shares a creature type with the sacrificed creature. Put the card onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. I can see this working in a lot of really cool decks, including a deck it's not in, which is the Eldrazi. Right, this is a card that's in the Sliver deck, but the Eldrazi could really benefit because if you have a couple really weak Eldrazi and a couple really strong, well, you have a good chance to get those onto the battlefield and just be epic. Guff rewrites history. 2 and a red. Instant. For each player, choose target non-enchantment, non-land permanent that player controls. Those permanents, owners shuffle them into their libraries. Each player who controls one of those permanents exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land, puts the rest on the bottom of their library in a random order. Each player may cast the non-land card they exiled without paying its mana cost. Guff, if you don't know, is a 4th wall breaking character, and when he says he's rewriting history, he's literally rewriting history. So this is a cool kind of Chaos Warp ability that lets players play cards from the top of their library. So this is really cool. You know, maybe you're getting rid of your opponent's best thing, but they're going to get something else out of it. And maybe you're getting rid of your worst thing and getting even something better. So really cool. Jaya's Phoenix. 4 and a red. Creature Phoenix. Flying in haste. When Jaya's Phoenix deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, copy the next loyalty ability you activate this turn when you activate it. You may choose a new target for the copy. Whenever you cast a planeswalker spell, you may return Jaya's Phoenix from your graveyard to the battlefield. Phoenixes are great cards, and this one is even cooler because you get to double up an effect from one of your planeswalkers, and whenever you cast one, you can just get it back. With Flying in Haste, this can deal some massive damage real quick. Composer of Spring, 1 and a green. Creature, Satyr Bard. Constellation, whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. If you control 6 or more enchantments, instead you may put a creature or land from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. This is a super cool way to ramp super fast, and then once you're done ramping, just start putting out creatures. This is amazing. It's going to become a staple, and I can see this card being worth a lot more than a lot of people think it is for just how powerful it is. For the Ancestors, 2 and a green. Instant, choose a creature type. Look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal any number of cards of the chosen type from among them. Put the revealed cards into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. And it has flashback for 3 and a green. This is such a good way to get a lot of tribal cards you want into your hand. This can be a real benefit if you're trying to dig for some creatures. Hatchery Sliver, 1 and a green. Creature Sliver, replicate, 1 and a green. Each sliver spell you cast has replicate. The replicate cost is equal to its mana value. Replicate is a super cool ability and works amazingly with Sliver Gravemother. Basically, if you only have a couple slivers in hand and don't really have any way to draw more cards, you can use this ability to put multiple of the same sliver you're casting onto the battlefield. This is so great because we want to take advantage and copy those slivers that give us the best value, like give everything +3/+3. Yeah, I'd love 2 of those. Any kind of sliver that can buff your board is super great, and this sliver is going to be one of the most valuable from this set. Nyx Bloom Behemoth, 10 green, enchantment creature beast. This spell costs X list to cast, where X is the total mana value of non-creature enchantments you control. It has trample and 1 and a green, sack another enchantment. Nyx Bloom Behemoth gains indestructible until end of turn. This is another one of those cards that gives us a sack outlet for our enchantments, but also this card gets so much cheaper for each non-creature enchantment we control, meaning we could potentially get this out for 2 green. 10/10 trample? Yes, please. And our last card, but possibly one of the most powerful cards ever printed, is Darksteel Monolith. 8 mana artifact, indestructible. Once each turn, you may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost for a colorless spell you cast from your hand. Importantly, this says each turn, meaning this doesn't necessarily have to be on just your turn. If you have stuff out that lets you play colorless spells at instant speed, you can play a spell for free every turn, getting you incredible value, especially if it's those big Eldrazi. So watch out for this card if it enters the battlefield, because this could be the end of your game. And with that, I want to say thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel. I'm going to do a ton more Commander Masters videos coming out, including live gameplay, and I'm going to talk about next the 10 most expensive cards from Commander Masters and what you should look out for. This is such an amazing set, and there's so much to pick up, so please subscribe to my channel to stay tuned for all that news. In addition, on Wednesday, I'll be releasing my first live play video with me, Jesse the Lost Planeswalker, and my friend Jaden. We had a ton of fun this last weekend playing, and I'm super happy with what we got. I hope you'll check it out and leave a like and share it with your friends. I'm hoping to do these videos on a regular basis, so if you enjoy watching Commander content and other Magic the Gathering live play, please stay tuned. If there's a card that you think is really great reprinted in Commander Masters, please leave it in the comment down below. There's so many great cards, and I'm so excited to see all the new stuff that they're reprinting because we've needed a lot of it for a long time. And if you like this video, please leave a like. And today's Scryfall card of the day is Exuberant Firestoker. The artistry of Ethlon's Fire Dancers is more spectacular when the behemoths join in. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you later, Planeswalkers.